Hello and welcome to the Father and Son Formula One podcast. I am the father in the title. I'm Graham Miller, and here's my son Toby.
Hello.
Today, rather late, we're talking about the Japanese Grand Prix from I think 2 weeks ago.
Let me see. Almost 3 weeks ago, I think.
Oh yeah, we're in a bit of a weird situation because of the situation in the Middle East. Let's just say that and move on without getting political.
Yeah.
We've had 2 cancelled races, so we've still got a couple of weeks to wait, I think, until Miami. Japan was the other side of the world from the UK where we're watching from. So I don't think... I mean, we don't really like free practice anyway, especially when it's not, new regulations or a new driver or anything. And these were like 2 or 3 in the morning, so there wasn't a huge amount to report. I think as well, because the regulations are so new, I don't think anybody's putting new drivers out, and I'm wrong. Jack Crawford went out in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, but the Aston Martin, they're kind of...
They need data however they get it, don't they?
Yeah, if anything else, I think Alonso just probably needs a break from that car.
Yes.
He's probably quite happy to sit by for a bit and let somebody else drive it.
Oh God, I read a very clickbaity article. I will hold my hands up to that. It wasn't even an article, it was just like a series of photographs of But apparently, there were the driver pairings that very nearly happened.
Yes.
One of them was that Alonso and Christian Horner were in very serious discussions, I think even with amounts and contracts being discussed. Guess which year?
Was it like 2010 or something?
2007.
Oof. Wow.
Imagine if they got Alonso into Red Bull in 2008.
But also, the issue there is, what do they... Because it presumably would have been Alonso and Webber.
Yeah.
First of all, is Alonso going to get on with Webber?
No.
So, if they ditch Webber for Vettel, is Alonso going to get on with Vettel? Given how well he got on with Hamilton.
Yeah. I think after all the fuss with Hamilton, he would have demanded, a wingman, and he wouldn't have got that from either Webber or Vettel.
Actually, no, I know what would have happened. He signs in 2008 for Red Bull.
Yeah.
He stays there until 2010 alongside Vettel or Webber. He gets fed up.
I think Webber was there from the beginning.
He gets fed up and leaves before the start of the 2010 season when they suddenly become good, because that's what happens to Alonso, and then he joins McLaren when they start to tank.
Actually, to be fair to Alonso, part of his problem part of his story as a driver is that he's lost 3 world titles by, I think, a maximum of 5 or 6 points each time.
Yeah.
He lost out by 1 point in either...
It was 07, that was.
07. And he lost out by a handful of points driving the Ferrari against Vettel twice.
Yeah, I think 2010 and 2012.
Yeah. So, I mean, arguably,
he could be like a 4-time, 5-time champion.
5-time, which actually, with his talent and his car control...
Yeah.
Is actually reasonably where we should be. Anyway, yes, Jack Crawford replaced
Alonso.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it's just practice was just the Mercedes were fastest, then the McLarens.
Yeah, actually, I think for the whole weekend that was really interesting because McLaren in Australia, Piastri binned it on the formation lap.
Yeah.
In China, they didn't actually either of them make it to the grid.
No.
So the only time we've seen a McLaren out in anger has been Lando Norris in Australia, and I think that was fairly unexciting.
Well, he came 5th, and he held off Verstappen, but it was a kind of weird moment of his Norris versus Verstappen, but it's for 5th place.
Yeah.
While Antonelli and Russell and Leclerc were fighting for the win up ahead.
Yeah, but it was kind of nice, I think, over the whole weekend to actually see genuinely where the
McLarens are this weekend.
Or over this season, at this end of the season, let's put it that way. And it does look like, overall, that I'm looking at the actual qualifying times now. It looks like Mercedes, McLaren and Ferrari are now the big three.
Yeah, because I don't see how you can put Red Bull up there anymore, unfortunately.
They are right in a midfield pack with Alpine and Audi.
I still think... Yeah, go on.
And I was going to say, and Haas are in there as well.
In terms of points, yeah, I mean, the constructors after Japan, spoilers, it's literally 16 for Alpine and Red Bull and 18 for Haas. And actually 14 points for RB.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the midfield. And now there's this, like, back markers group with Aston Martin and Cadillac and Williams and Audi.
And it is kind of... It is a bit... I think it's a bit early in the season to be making those kind of comparisons, because 3 races and 1 sprint.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, in 2025, at this point, Piastri looked unstoppable.
Well... Yes, at this point in 2025, I think the top 3 all had 1 win each, it looks like. I'm not sure what the actual standings were, but... Well, to be honest, it looked like a very close fight, and it was, so...
Yeah. So maybe this is... Yeah, with new regulations and everything.
I think the big fight might be Ferrari versus McLaren for P2. Especially since they've both got quite evenly matched teammates in terms of skill level.
Yeah, but there's... I mean, Mercedes... My brain's not there. Mercedes' compression ratio trick is going to be outlawed after, I think, the summer break.
That is really weird, isn't it?
Long enough to redesign it. I know Ferrari are trying to work on the flip over wing and make it reliable enough to run in a race weekend.
Yeah.
And given that the big advantage Mercedes have had is over straight line speed, those two might just...
You think it might flip to Ferrari having a bit more on them?
Well, Ferrari have got fast starts, they've got good qualifying, and they're losing out on race pace of straight line speed, so...
If I was in charge of Ferrari,
yeah,
I'd be trying to get that done for Monza.
Oh man, that would be...
Because Monza... I mean, when did you say the Mercedes is being outlawed?
Oh, that is a very good question. I'm going to have to try and find the article now. July is kind of sticking in my head for some reason. I'm actually looking on the official F1 .com website. Also, while we're on the subject of rules, Red Bull and Mercedes have had their knuckles whacked by the FIA.
Yes.
In qualifying, there is a limit on how much battery power, I think it's like 50 kilowatts per some amount of time, I'm not sure, you can deploy.
Yeah.
But if there's a fault in the system, that doesn't apply. And both Red Bull and Mercedes were developing that fault in the final sector. So as they came over the line, or just before they came over the line, they were dumping every single scrap of power out of their batteries.
Yeah, I can actually see that on this. I'm reading this website.
Which, you're allowed to do if there's a fault, but if there isn't a fault, it's kind of, well, it is cheating, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's sort of that vaguely, it's closely cheating in that sort of F1 way where they can try and get away with it. Rules state from June the 1st, 2026, compression ratios will also be measured when the engine is at 130 degrees Celsius.
Yeah. So they actually haven't got that many more races to go.
Actually, it's really these 2 races being cancelled has massively hurt them.
Yeah,
because they've got
Miami and Canada, and then Monaco, where you need out and out power and straight line speed.
No, they don't really, do they? They could probably just run it on the electric power unit on its own, to be honest. Have like a Formula E race.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been a lot of comments like that.
But Italy is all the way in September.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's actually, I thought it was half of the season that Mercedes would have, but it's only about, it's not even a third of it.
Not with these 2 races being dropped out.
No. Anyway, shall we get back to Japan?
Yeah, the qualifying in Japan. The big news of it was that it looked like on pure pace, I didn't see any mistakes. Max Verstappen went out in Q2.
Yes.
And even more alarmingly, Hadjar went through.
Which is, yeah, pretty significant.
I think Hadjar is actually massively winning the head-to-head qualifying battle.
Yeah, not the points or the race battle yet, but he is out qualifying Max. Like I think he's the first driver to have out qualified him more than once since Ricciardo.
Yeah, I mean it is.
I think Perez did a few times, but in such a short number of races, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty indicative of the problems. Where are we at? Yeah, Hadjar's 2-1 up on Verstappen.
What about with the sprint as well?
It doesn't say that, but
I think, okay, yeah, he's definitely beating him in Grand Prix qualifying, which is what they like to say.
Oh, here you go, sprint qualifying. No, Max out qualified him on the sprint, but
so it's it's still really good.
Yeah, given the amount that he's normally dominates a teammate, and especially a rookie when Max has been in the sport for 10, 11 years.
Yeah, it's pretty good going.
Q1 eliminations. Albon, Behrman. I think Behrman was a shock because he's...
Yeah, he should have been pretty decent. He's been quite good this season and last season as well, obviously.
No, Behrman up until Japan hasn't been quite good. 5 drivers had finished in the points all races and sprints.
Yeah,
Antonelli, Russell, Leclerc, Hamilton, and Ollie Behrman.
Is that races and sprints?
I think so, yeah.
Oh yeah, because Gasly's scored points in every race as well.
Yeah,
but he didn't score in the sprint.
So I mean, Behrman's actually been...
He's up. I mean, he's 7th in the championship. He's actually, even with that spoiler warning DNF in Japan, he's actually best of the rest currently because everyone above him is the top 6 drivers from the top 3 teams.
Yeah.
So he's currently leading the midfield.
It's a bit of a shock to see him go out in 18th.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he went out by... So, Colapinto in 15th was 130.931.
Yeah.
And Behrman out in 18th, so you've got Colapinto, Sainz, Albon and Behrman, was 31.09.
So that's a kind of...
Less than a tenth?
Yeah, it's like half a tenth. I'm trying to do the maths.
I'm trying to do the maths in my
I can't do the maths. It's not very much.
No.
Very small margin indeed.
So, I mean, yes, he was unlucky, but also...
It's especially considering the Cadillac was about 1.2 seconds off Behrman as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, both Cadillacs and both Aston Martins.
1.5 tenths, 0.163 between 4 cars.
Yeah.
Which isn't an awful lot to find, really.
No, but just one little mistake with the deployment.
Yeah, I mean...
Or even just, drifting and losing traction for a second could do that.
Yeah. I mean, Alonso has complained bitterly about qualifying in Japan.
Yeah.
Because he said that it's got some of the iconic, like, Spoon and Degner and 130R corners. And obviously Alonso has driven in probably more formulas than more rules packages than anybody else. But he said up till this year it used to be you'd try and stay on full throttle all the way through the corner.
Yeah.
You'd balance the power and the steering, have the back end basically dancing on the point of breaking free just to nail it and get the speed.
Yeah.
And he said now it's like your charging station for your electric car.
Yeah.
I said the point of going through those big fast corners now is to go through with as much basically overrun on the engine and recharge as you possibly can. So then, because what happens is, and I was trying to figure out how the physics worked, but if you just absolutely nail it through the corners and launch out onto the straight at probably 5-10 miles an hour faster, you get halfway down the straight and you lose half your power.
Yeah.
In one go. And then obviously you just kind of go, I think it's 50 kph slower on the rest of the straight.
Yeah, super clipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very weird.
So
I think the thing is that I'm not entirely sure what I'm not sure what the FIA were thinking would happen. Because if this is what the FIA wanted, I'm not entirely sure why they wanted it, if that makes sense. Like, why they wanted the cars to be going so much slower through each corner.
I mean, I know this is probably not going to be a popular opinion, but the thing is, if you're sat there on your sofa and watching it, it doesn't look that different.
No.
You know, I mean, maybe if you're an absolute nerd and you're watching it, you go, oh, I remember in 2001 when Kubica went this fast, or Raikkonen or whoever.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been Kubica in 2001.
Well, no, but you know
Said
what I
the
mean.
absolute nerd in question.
Yeah. And I think for the drivers on board, it's disappointing.
Yeah, the drivers pretty universally hate it, I think, actually. Except the Mercedes drivers, who are keeping very quiet.
Well, Mercedes and Ferrari are absolutely loving it.
I think Ferrari are enjoying racing each other, and Hamilton's enjoying being competitive. I'm not entirely sure if they're really in love with the way they have to drive them.
No, but I mean, also Hamilton is very, in a good way, political.
Yeah.
You know, he knows the right thing to say at the right time, and he doesn't want to rock the boat.
No.
But, yeah, a lot of the drivers... But you see, I think that's it. I think from inside the car, it's really annoying, and it's not why they got into racing. But from outside the car, it doesn't look hugely different.
And they're still very fast cars with insane amounts of downforce.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even if they have slightly less battery going through a corner, or they're lifting halfway through, or, super clipping, they're still going so much faster than probably either of us have ever actually been in a car.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, illegal speeds on the motorway is like a chicane for these guys.
Yeah, I mean, I've don't even think I've ever hit triple digits.
Yeah.
In British miles per hour, anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, qualifying.
The other thing as well, they are kind of trying to avoid onboard shots of the super clipping, I think.
Yeah, and they've stopped doing team radio from people like Verstappen because he's so kind of critical, I think.
So I think as much as you say it looks the same, I also do think they're trying to kind of control what you see a little bit.
Yeah, which then comes down to the whole, is it a sport or an entertainment argument?
Yeah. Which is a bit difficult to answer, really.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching, I think, the snooker, and they were talking to one of the players, and it's like, oh, you always like to put on a good show out there, and part of my brain was going, aren't you just out there to score as many points as possible and beat your opponent?
Yeah, it's kind of... I guess it's just different kind of mindsets, because on the one hand, you want to win, but on the other hand, a part of you must be thinking, if I've got charisma, and if the fans like me, they might go and buy my t-shirts.
Yeah,
or something like that.
And I mean, both Hamilton and Verstappen, as the latest two, have admitted that they made the sport really boring.
Yeah.
Because, 2023, it's like, oh, will Verstappen win or come second? Let's see.
Yeah.
Or the glory years of 17, 18, probably 19 as well.
Yeah.
It's like Mercedes just kind of walked it, really. And it wasn't like this. It wasn't entertainment.
Yeah, but then you get to the other end of the question, which is 2021, where they try to manufacture entertainment. And I think that's where they stepped over the line and people went, okay, we need to sort of rein it in a bit.
Yeah, they probably did that to an extent because they had so many really dull years.
Yeah, but the thing is that was the last minute. And even if it had just ended under safety car, it still would have been one of the best seasons in probably like 15 years at that point.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
For the two different drivers from two different teams at their absolute peak fighting for championship number 1 and championship number 8.
Yeah, either one would have set a record.
But they kind of just ruined it, really.
Yeah.
Anyway. Massively off topic.
So yeah, Q2, Max went out. I'm looking at the times here. He actually went out by almost exactly as much as the split between Colapinto down to Behrman. He actually wasn't even close to getting through.
Well, Lindblad got past him. And so did Hadjar.
Well, Hadjar was like 1.5 tenths actually, yeah. His teammate was
way ahead of him, but also, again, one of the junior cars.
Yeah.
In the sister team. Not to mention Lindblad out-qualifying Lawson.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lindblad is living up to his reputation as well at the moment. I
think he's kind of... I don't know if he's had that much hype as well. Like, I heard his name, but he wasn't like how Antonelli came through and everyone was like, oh, he's amazing, he's the best ever.
Yeah.
But he's done a very good job so far.
I mean, I think Lindblad was that we were talking about him because we're really nerdy about Formula One.
Yeah.
Before he even, I think, got into a pre-practice 1 session.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see, Ocon came 12th. That's about where Behrman should have been, I think.
I wouldn't have been surprised to see Behrman in Q3.
No, it should have been, I think. Yeah, Lawson down in 14th, Colapinto, Sainz. That Williams is not a happy car.
No, and I think Albon in particular has not been very happy with it. And I could kind of... it's sort of weird to think about why it's not where it should be. Because James Vowles created such a kind of like hopeful environment and vibe.
Yeah, I know we talked about this last time, so I won't labour it, but Mercedes and McLaren have been in a row about their software and how much of their software they release. And,
yeah.
And if McLaren are that unhappy, Williams must be absolutely fuming. Actually, Alpine are running that Mercedes engine as well, and they are really firmly... I mean, apart from Gasly being Monsieur Samedi.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that to catch on still.
If Crofty starts using that in the next race, I think we've got a case, to be honest. We could sue.
Yeah. Or at least get him to listen to our podcast.
Exactly.
But yeah, apart from Gasly being epic qualifying, Alpine are struggling as well. So
I think... Yeah, Gasly's been converting his qualifying into decent points as well.
Yeah.
And actually Colapinto scored a point in China. So they're kind of, again, midfield. They're not quite as bad as Williams, rather.
No, but it does make you wonder why you've got this kind of spread from, the front to the back, all with the same engine package. Is the aero really that much different, or...?
I think it's battery deployment and the software, probably.
Yeah. Well, I think also Mercedes are probably getting a bit of revenge for the fact that a customer team thrashed them last year, so...
Yeah. Who's the Ferrari teams? Is it just Haas?
I think it is, yeah.
Because Haas are actually doing quite well now.
That does imply there's something fundamentally good about that Ferrari.
I think there is. I mean, apart from just the starts, it is a better package than it was last year because they're fighting for podiums. I mean, they've got a podium in every event so far. Ferrari has.
And I remember we said in our pre-season roundup that Ferrari have gone right down the middle of the road in development terms. So, however, they can look at everybody else and their performance and decide which direction, side pods are fairly average, etc.
Yeah, I think it's Cadillac Ferrari. Cadillac are also Ferrari, but they're not terribly representative, really.
No, they've got a lot of other issues.
Although
Well, they're a new team.
again, they are better than the Aston Martins.
Yeah, and actually, for a brand new team, I mean, they came in 19th and 20th, out qualified both Astons. So, yeah, that Ferrari package is definitely looking very strong.
Yeah, and maybe they're not gatekeeping it as much as Mercedes are.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Q3.
So Lindblad got through. Yeah.
What's that? We talked about this before the microphone came on. Antonelli was just faster than George Russell.
Yeah, I don't know if there was any mitigating circumstances, because last time, obviously, he got pole at China.
Yeah.
Because Russell was in the garage for most of Q3. But this time, it was kind of, again, vindicated him a bit. So where it's like, oh, he's actually that good.
Yeah, as far as I remember, and my memory isn't great, I think it was one of those weird tracks where they went out on their first runs and kind of set the grid and then nobody improved.
I'm just quickly watching the highlights on my phone, and I think you're right. I think it was all sort of yellows. I think the track just didn't rubber in, or they didn't... Something happened.
The temperature dropped, or
probably.
Something got out of the window. But Antonelli was fast all session, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was first out.
3/10 up on Russell.
Yeah, I mean, that's just setting down a marker, isn't it?
And then again, Piastri in third. And we sort of saw from him this race that he's kind of got a bit of fire under him, I think.
I mean, I think being that young, I think last season will have toughened him up.
Yeah.
I think he would have looked at last season and gone, I've got the pace. I can run right at the front. As they all do nowadays, no doubt he sat down with his sports psychologist to figure out,
yeah,
am I going, where am I going wrong? Because he did have a bit of a wobble in the middle, but I think he's that young that he's like, I actually have the raw speed to compete at the very front. And to be honest, that's the kind of thing you can't develop.
Yeah.
Drivers are either quick or they're not. Everything else you can work on, but the actual raw speed is just...
Yeah, it's... Also, he is good at developing himself and changing.
Yeah.
Because in his first season, he struggled at qualifying. And then the next season, he was a much better qualifier, like, noticeably. So I think he really kind of, like, knows where his weaknesses are and develops them.
Oh. I was going to do this after we discussed the race, but this is a really good time for weird statistic time.
Yes.
When you finish a race, I'm not telling this mainly to our listeners because you know this, the lead driver, done 57 laps, goes over the line, checker flag comes down.
Waved by Jack Black.
Everybody
in this
else...
case.
Yeah, well, let's just not go there. Although actually, yeah, let's, because he was sponsoring the Mario Kart movie, which, considering half the drivers have said it's like driving Mario Kart and have made comments about bananas and... Anyway, mushrooms.
Yeah, they had to I could almost feel the commentators trying not to mention the Mario Kart comments whenever Jack Black was on screen, but... Yeah,
so 57 laps or whatever it is are up. Lead driver takes the checker flag. Everybody else who's on the same lap, who hasn't been lapped by the lead driver, then takes the checker flag as well, and they're classified as having done full race distance.
Yeah.
And everybody behind them who's been lapped at least once by the lead driver is classified as +1.
Yeah.
So somebody started looking at a list of people who have raced every single lap in a season.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me about this.
Not just completed every single lap in a season, which, to be honest, is tough.
Yeah.
But they've actually never been lapped in every race of a season.
Yes.
Only 4 drivers have ever done this.
Mm-hmm.
Michael Schumacher in 2002.
Yeah, I think because that's the season he got a podium in every race.
Yeah, and that's the kind of season when he was absolutely crushingly dominant. Significant that the first one was in 2002 because reliability actually started picking up then.
Yeah, definitely.
Lewis Hamilton in 2019.
Yeah, unsurprising again.
Utter dominance. Max Verstappen in, guess what year?
2023.
How did you know?
Because he won all but like 3 races, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. But then, Oscar Piastri in 24.
Yeah. That is weird, isn't it?
It's weird, and it's also one of those kind of... It's not like somebody made up a statistic. It's like, oh, if you look at the first 75% of the races, or, these weird stats they come up with to try and prove their point.
Yeah, it's actually pretty significant.
I mean, that's massive consistency. Massive speed. Apparently in 24, in the last race, he was close to being lapped, I think, by Norris. He was, like, getting towards the end of the lap, and I think, Norris, another couple of laps might have had him, but even so.
He came 10th in that race.
Yeah.
But yeah, the consistency is the main thing, because that's actually what wins championships.
But also the fact that he's in a group with peak Schumacher, who was 10 years into his career, and 4 world championships under his belt, going for his 5th, I think. I can't quite do the maths.
Yeah, going for his 5th.
Similar situation with
Hamilton.
Lewis, actually.
And peak Verstappen.
Who was actually only... had 2 under his belt and going for his 3rd. But...
So you're saying there's some statistic, and the club is peak Verstappen, peak Hamilton, peak Schumacher, and Piastri 2 years into his career.
Yeah. I mean, if you actually look at it like that, that's kind of a bit... If you're one of the other 21 drivers on the grid and you read that, you'd be like, oh no.
Yeah. On the other hand...
If you're one of the other 19 on the grid, because obviously Lewis and Max wouldn't be that worried.
No. On the other hand, Norris did start at McLaren when they were quite rubbish.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Piastri almost has a bit of a Hamilton effect, where he dropped in when they were just on the up and doing quite well.
Yeah. Yeah. But there again, a team boss wouldn't pick a bad driver to come in when the team was just getting good.
No, and actually it's something else, which is like, people always say, oh, it's just the car. But I think you pointed out that actually having good business sense and sort of engineering sense and knowing when a car's going to be good is part of being an F1 driver.
Yeah, and also impressing the team boss and the driver managers enough that they want to put you in that car.
And being nice to work with, which... Yeah, honestly, it's probably the thing that's hampered Alonso the most.
Yeah, and also having the ability to give that feedback to the engineers. Like you say, be easy to work with, be able to say, to be like super technical and go, oh yeah, in this corner I could feel the rear left doing this, and how about actually be able to work technically as well.
Because with Hamilton moving to Mercedes from McLaren, everyone laughed at the time, but now everyone's going, that was the best decision ever. But it wasn't like an accident or a mistake. Like, he knew what he was doing, and I think when everybody was laughing, he knew what was coming, and he was like, just you wait. Yeah,
he'd seen also, Toto had seen something in Lewis.
Well, the fact that he's the best driver ever.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, it's like, Toto wouldn't look at Lance Stroll, for example.
No.
So
yeah, I see what you mean. I mean, but I think Piastri, he was with Alpine, but then he decided to jump from Alpine to McLaren, which is a similar kind of genius career move.
Yeah, again, that just makes him a really complete package.
Yeah, and I think I've always sort of said Norris is like a single-time champion in my mind.
Yeah.
Which he is now, but Piastri's got a higher ceiling, probably.
Probably. Yeah. You know what also nobody ever says?
What?
Nobody ever says, well, Jenson Button only won that title because he had a double-stack diffuser and he was in the best car.
Which, unfortunately, is true.
Yeah.
I think I think the Brawn story is so insane and out there that nobody ever wants to sort of tarnish it with stuff like that, because it is just utterly ridiculous to think about.
Yeah, I think my point is that the oh, it's only because they're in the best car. It was always used if you don't like the driver.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like used by people who don't like Hamilton about the Mercedes years. It's used by people who don't like Max about the Red Bull years.
Weirdly, I think just because of the nostalgia to it, no one ever says that about Schumacher, even though he was in the best car.
Yeah.
To the extent that the FIA had to kind of nerf them with the tyre changes in the early noughties.
But I think as well, the thing with Schumacher is he deliberately joined Ferrari early. And he spent like 4 or 5 years making that the best car. And he got his own people in at the right time. And
yeah,
he did a lot of the work.
But I think that's sort of what Norris did, I think, to McLaren. Because he stuck with them while they were pretty rubbish. He got them their first podiums in like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And then eventually, got them up to, winning both world championships.
Yeah.
So in a way, he's kind of done it, which is, quite impressive. It's something to be said.
He had. The thing is, I think the reason they don't say that about Schumacher is because he negotiated a contract where he could bring in who he wanted, and he got. My brain's gone blank. Who did he get in?
Ross Brawn.
Jean
Todt. I think Brawn was in there as well.
Yeah, he got Ross Brawn in and Jean Todt, and he made that the Schumacher team basically.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that, but. Yeah.
Anyway, apparently there was a race in Japan. Did you know that?
Yeah, I did. I saw it live at 5 in the morning or something. So Antonelli starting from pole.
Yeah.
I think the start was another classic 2026. Except that this time it was actually Piastri who launched into the lead. Antonelli ended up like 5th or something.
Yeah, Antonelli got utterly mugged.
I think I
think it's just one of those classic starts where it just kind of somebody has to lose out.
I think Antonelli hasn't quite got the starts nailed down yet. He did a good job in China, but that's still, of the 4 starts there's been, he's messed up like 3 of them, I think.
Yeah, I'm watching the very first few seconds of the highlights, and yeah, the McLarens and the Ferraris just swamped the Mercedes.
Yeah, both Mercedes. I mean, Piastri had an epic start. His first Grand Prix laps of the entire year were actually leading the race.
Yeah.
And then, Leclerc again, that Ferrari jumps off the line like nothing else as well.
Yep.
It does make very exciting opening laps.
Oh, yeah.
That is the other thing, it's like, people complain about the super clipping, but the actual racing is kind of awesome. Like, it's exciting I'd much rather have that, even if it's slightly artificial and manufactured by the batteries, than just have another year or two of, like, 2018 procession, where they just the Mercedes disappears into the distance and nobody can do anything.
Trains.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, I mean, I know Russell gets a bad reputation for complaining.
Yeah.
But I actually think this was justified because I think it was lap 22. I'm scrolling through the reports. Behrman had a huge crash.
Yeah, it was 22. I've got the highlights up.
And Russell had pitted on lap 21.
Yeah, he
which
pitted.
Then left Antonelli to get a free pit stop, basically, and undo the damage of running in 5th.
It was kind of... Well, it's one of those sort of tricky situations, because Antonelli did get very lucky.
And you have to say, it just comes and it goes. You have to look at a whole season. You can't just say, oh, that race was unfair. It ebbs and it flows, doesn't it?
And that was sort of how Norris's first win came about as well.
Yeah.
However, the other driver who won out from that was Hamilton. Because if we look at the highlights, Hamilton was second, having not pitted, behind Antonelli.
Yeah.
When the yellow flags came out. But he finished the race in 5th? 6th.
6th.
So I don't think it was everything. Like, it was Hamilton and Gasly were the only two who hadn't pitted in the top, group. They were first, second, and third at that time. And Hamilton and Gasly ended up 6th and 7th. But Antonelli won. So I still think he had the pace, especially at the end.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, the other thing is, even if you're gifted a chance like that, you've still got to take it.
Yeah.
You know, he's 19. He could have freaked out running in the lead. He actually nearly did on the final lap, but, you know, he could have lost pace. He could have lost focus. Anything could have happened. He could have shredded his tyres, you know. He's still got to actually bring it home over the line.
Yeah.
The other thing about the Behrman crash...
Well, yeah, yeah.
And this actually is what, again, Alonso said a lot about, and about the overtaking. You said it was manufactured.
Mm.
The real problem with the overtaking is that some cars are harvesting and some cars are on full power.
Yes.
And that means there's a 50 to 60 kilometre per hour speed difference, a delta between them.
Yeah.
And yes, you get a lot more overtaking, and yes, you know, from our sofas it looks exciting, but it's almost like the cars are sometimes sitting ducks. You can just see it where a car comes up and it just goes zoop straight past.
Yeah.
What happened with Behrman, I think it was Ocon. Or...
Who? What, the car in front of him?
Yeah.
It's Colapinto.
Oh, it's Colapinto. He was going through a corner clipping, as Alonso has complained about, and Behrman came round the same corner at pretty much full speed, saw him at the last minute, and just ducked out the way, put two wheels on the gravel and was out.
Also, Colapinto did sort of swerve to the left a bit.
Yeah.
I'm watching it in the highlights from Behrman's on board. The speed differential is pretty ridiculous.
It is actually terrifying.
I mean, it's the sort of thing we've always said that causes the biggest crashes, is if there's like a stalled car and then a car pulls out the way and another one comes up behind at a massive speed difference.
Yeah, I mean,
We've
that's
seen it
everything
like
from...
loads of times.
Well, from like the 1950 Le Mans monster crash all the way through to actually Billy Munger losing his legs was exactly the same.
Yeah, and we've seen sort of close calls and near misses. Like in Australia, that was a really close call. With Colapinto, ironically.
Yeah.
I think it's just lucky that Behrman didn't hit Colapinto, because it would have been a lot worse if that happened.
Yeah. And I think that is what people are saying now, that there is a really big potential.
Yeah.
That, and I mean, this is not the drivers saying, oh my god, there's a huge risk. This is not the drivers saying, oh, it's really boring and it's not the way we're used to racing.
Yeah, it's
They're highlighting
safety.
This could be a big crash. I mean, I hope we're wrong. Nobody wants to see that.
I think the thing is that it could be, and it already has been, an incident because of that. So they kind of... It's almost like, how far will they let it go before they change something?
Yeah,
Although I think they're talking about changing things already, to be fair. But
yeah, I was
still.
going to say, I think it's already in the pipeline that people are trying to make changes, but it's a very difficult situation because the teams as a whole have invested so much. I mean, these regs have been talked about for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've been finalised and the teams have got a cost cap and they've spent hundreds of millions getting to this point. I think they're talking about software and procedural changes, like at the moment it's very restricted in where you can and can't harvest energy and where you can and can't deploy it.
Yeah.
And I've already heard, it might have been Alonso, it might have been another driver saying, like, Eau Rouge has been talked about, for example, in Belgium. Because that's a fast flowing corner, but it's blind, it goes over a summit.
Yeah.
So you can already see that people are thinking, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
If you come up and over that...
There's a car super clipping on the Kemmel Straight.
Yeah.
That
and you come off it at like 30 miles an hour faster.
Eau Rouge is already a bit lethal as corners go, to be honest.
Well, yeah.
I mean, literally, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the old tracks. It certainly doesn't surprise me. But
I think
they might start, like, you know, the race meeting saying, right, you can't harvest in these corners, or...
Yeah. I think they're sort of, thinking about changing the harvesting, or just lowering it overall, so they don't harvest as much over an entire lap, which means they're slower because they have less deployment, but there's less clipping, weirdly.
Yeah.
So it will be... It's just a really weird sort of like... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not really sure what the FIA
It's going to be a very
want.
interesting season to see how it all...
Yeah.
Well, they want safety more than anything. They can't have this kind of situation.
No.
Anyway, we will see how that plays out. Actually, before the big Behrman crash, it was a really interesting start because as qualifying bore out and the fact that as Mercedes have been faster in race pace, Piastri was actually chewing his way up through the field anyway.
Yeah.
The one he really lost out to was his teammate.
Hmm.
And it was really interesting to see that it was kind of Russell, Antonelli, Piastri, Norris and Leclerc.
Yeah.
All kind of scrapping it out.
Hamilton was in there for a bit, but I think he didn't have the ultimate pace.
I've got a feeling there was something...
An issue with his car?
Yeah, it didn't look... I mean, he's been really happy with the way the car drives. He's been the matcher of Leclerc. And all of a sudden, at Japan, which is one of those kind of driver circuits, he's not quite on it. I think there must have been something technical.
Yeah. Even if it's literally just like a deployment glitch or something.
Yeah. That's the other thing about the new rules. Piastri went into the barriers on the formation lap, and I don't think he had any clue why. Norris has actually said that he's had issues where suddenly it's deployed all the power and he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the drivers are feeling like they're not quite in control of the car. Or there's just I mean, Hamilton said, you need a degree in engineering to drive this thing.
Yeah.
Which is actually weird, because I think Alonso has said, the guy who makes the coffee in the garage could drive it. But I do think it's kind of not behaving itself, as it were.
Yeah, hopefully everything irons itself out, and we get to keep the sort of insane racing and cool, all that sort of stuff, and the very close fighting. And the fact that, again, with the sort of new aero packages, it seems like they can follow again pretty decently.
Yeah.
So that's something.
And with those speed offset and the battery deployment, it seems like there are options. So, you can follow faster and you can outthink your opponent. You can choose a different place to deploy.
Yeah.
And, overtake. But then, because it is deployment, quite often we've seen somebody will overtake. And then the other one will have kept their batteries charged and will just take them back in 4 corners' time.
I think it seems like Leclerc is very good at the outthinking part of it.
Yeah.
Because he's always he overtakes someone and then he sort of holds them off. Or he's the one who's taking them back afterwards. I think he actually kind of understands racing with these regs better than almost anyone else, I'd say.
Yeah. I'm just actually looking through. Yeah, it was... I mean, the big news is Antonelli won the race.
Yeah.
What I found really odd is there's been an awful lot of again, quite trashy, clickbaity articles. Because Max is very unhappy with the cars and very unhappy with his current performance. And Toto Wolff has made no secret of the fact that he would like Max in the Mercedes. And, if Max had a chance to move to the race-winning car, he'd be stupid to turn it down.
Yeah.
But then they're like, well, if you were Toto, would you get rid of Russell or Antonelli?
Yeah.
Which, I think it's a bit early, because Antonelli, to an extent... I suppose he was faster all weekend, he just messed up the start. He got lucky with the timing of the safety car.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
I think it's too early to say even who's going to win the championship.
Yeah. And I mean,
it is good that Antonelli has clearly, he's kind of broken the barrier of winning a race, and he's going to be able to support. He's going to,
won 2 in a row.
And I think Mercedes are pretty much locked into the constructors now because of that. I mean,
yeah,
it's just, can he string together a full season? Can Russell string together a full season? Because he's not really ever been up the front like this.
I think Russell is much more likely to string together a whole season. We may be wrong. Antonelli may be really mature.
Yeah.
But I think we might see a bit of a Piastri situation where he does really well and something changes.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of impossible to say now.
A question we've been asking ourselves for several years has been answered.
Yeah.
The legal drinking age for alcohol in Japan is, guess what?
21.
It's actually 20.
Oh, that's weird. But yes, I remember this.
They anticipated it, and he had basically fizzy fruit juice on the podium.
They're rose water, I think. And they pointed it out, the commentators. His bottle didn't have a label on it.
Oh.
Because it probably wasn't whatever it is in Moët Chandon now.
Oh, was it Ferrari?
Oh, I don't know what the official champagne of Formula 1 is. I'm not a true fan.
No, it has been Ferrari for years. I would look, but my mouse is just actually, the battery on it's died, so I'm kind of doing everything by keyboard.
I can see Moët Hennessy is a sponsor, but I don't know if they're the official. Hang on, can I see is there a podium thing? On the highlights, I'm looking at a video of the podium to see. But yeah, his bottle didn't have a label on it because it wasn't whatever the alcohol is. It was rose water.
Yeah.
Although, as they also pointed out, Leclerc and Piastri were then spraying their champagne all over him and probably getting quite a lot of it in his mouth. So what was the point?
Yeah, it depends where you define, serving, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I suppose they can't give him alcohol.
Yeah.
So that's fair enough. Maybe they get in trouble for
actually handing him a bottle, yeah.
But anyway, yes, that is
We've
a
been
question we'd asked.
For a couple of years now, while there's been some really young drivers in.
Yeah, probably even back when Verstappen was winning, they could have been asking that question.
Yeah.
But I think it's now been answered pretty definitively. They just give him unbranded rose water.
Yeah. Which, we kind of guessed, but it's interesting that it's happened.
Yeah. It might happen. Yet more.
Well, yeah, he's got more... the fact is that we can't really see him not being on the podium in Miami.
Yeah. Or Canada. I don't know what the rules are in Canada.
Well, Canada's much more lax because a lot of people in the northern states of America head over to Canada to get... if you're at university in one of the northern states, it's quite common to pop over the border on a Friday night for a party.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I knew about the Mexico thing down south with Tijuana.
Well, yeah, don't forget Canada's much more both British and French.
Oh, yeah, we love drinking.
Yeah, and much more lax laws.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, so
yeah, Antonelli's now leading the championship properly.
Youngest ever championship leader, almost certainly.
Oh, yeah, by 4 years.
Yeah.
Because I think the next was, I'm going to say Vettel, and then probably Hamilton, but they were 22, 23, so it's not even close.
Yeah, it's ridiculously.
Problem is that Verstappen never really got... Well, it took him until 2021 to get to a championship leading position, which is 5 years after he started winning races.
Yeah.
And so again, he was probably 23, 24.
Yeah, even though he started at 18. And I think Hamilton was ridiculously Kimi Räikkönen and Kimi Antonelli young when he started, was he?
He was 22 because he was actually a little older, but I'm not sure if he would have been winning races straight off the bat if he had been 17.
No, this whole kind of teenager-y thing is quite modern, isn't it?
Yeah, even, Damon Hill started racing cars in his early 20s, I think.
Yeah, he was famously late, wasn't he?
Yeah. But now that's sort of unthinkable, really.
Yeah,
It's not even that I've missed my chance to be in F1. It's like at my age, if I've not, secured a good seat and gotten a few good results, I'm kind of out of it almost.
Yeah, I mean, you should have been winning karting championships and single-seaters and...
At my age, if I wanted to get to F1, I'd need to be in an FIA, F3 or F2 probably.
Yeah.
To have any hope, but I think the ship has kind of sailed.
And, a lot of people just actually stay at like FP2, FP3 level, don't they? There's an awful lot that we've watched who even get up as far as like having FP1 practice sessions and never actually make it onto the main race weekend.
Yeah, but it's a job, It's kind of like always being an assistant manager and never a manager. But it's just, you get paid for it and you do what you love ultimately.
Yeah.
I know they're all super competitive and have a big drive to get to F1, but it doesn't happen for everyone.
No, like you say, there's got to be like support drivers and sim drivers and engineers and
there's so many the endurance grid is like 3 times as many cars as F1 and they've all got 3 drivers. So that's like hundreds of drivers to go and do endurance racing and sports car racing and Formula E and Super Formula.
Oh, Bert Mailander has won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in the past.
Yeah.
And he's been giving advice to an interview to Max Verstappen. It's really interesting. Because he's like, it is a 24-hour race, you only win by finishing and you don't want to go completely banzai and nuts at the beginning. You want to just build and gradually build speed and build pace.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise he was I suppose it actually makes sense being safety car driver, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you have a safety car driver, you want them to be very consistent. So you get an endurance racer and one who's driven that sort of car, touring cars, which is what it kind of is.
Yeah, big, professional.
Big, properly powerful saloons. Not like an F1 car.
Single-seaters, yeah.
Makes perfect sense. I think Max might be doing the 24 hours of the Nürburgring as we speak, to be honest.
Probably, yeah, I think you're right.
Because good for him that those races got cancelled.
Yeah, I mean, he's always going to be racing wherever he ends up, isn't he?
It's the qualifying race, because of course that's how that works. I think there's been a big crash, it looks like.
Oh.
Anyway, that's besides the point.
Yes, have you ever heard of a driver called Taki Inoue?
Yeah.
Do you know what he's famous for?
Is he famous for being the worst driver ever or something?
No, it's even better than that.
What?
In one season,
yes,
he got run over by both the safety car and the medical car.
Yeah, I do remember that. That's quite funny.
I think he got run over by the medical car, and I think the safety car crashed into him or something. It was just really...
So yeah, he drove for Footwork in 1995. His stalled car was hit by a course car. Although he was fine. And then he also... So the safety car, driven to the scene by a marshal, hit him and hurt his leg at the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And the first was at Monaco. So twice in the season he got hit by a official car, basically.
Yes, and was uninjured as well, which is quite weird.
Yeah, he got away with it pretty much.
But it's just... Anyway, I think we're kind of rambling. We've got Miami coming up, haven't we?
Yes. In like 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, this is really annoying. My mouse has given up. Yeah. I quite like Miami now.
It's a sprint weekend.
I think they've stopped trying to be like Monaco with an American accent.
Unfortunately, I think Vegas is now Monaco with an American accent. And I think I have said, there is something quite old school about Vegas that kind of fits F1's vibe.
Yeah.
It kind of just feels right. In a sort of like tacky, very big money. It's almost like the Monaco of the Americas in a way.
Yeah.
It kind of just like F1 at Vegas kind of just makes sense in my brain more so than Miami.
I mean, they've wanted it for years and they've had several attempts at it. So yeah, it really does.
But yeah, Miami, it's a sprint at the first day of May, pretty much.
Yeah.
That first weekend. Sprint quali is on at 9:30 in the evening. At night, I guess.
Yeah.
Sprint at 5 p.m. the next day.
This is sensible, isn't it?
Yeah, 9:30. So I'm just looking because I'm going to be at work on the Friday. But Fridays, well, we often finish early. Like yesterday, we finished at 8:30, 8:50.
Oh, you're going to be sat in the car park with your phone wedged up on the dashboard and just know what you like.
I could be just speeding home to try and get in and start. Although it's only qualifying, and it's actually only sprint quali, so it's not the end of the world. Quali at 9 on the Saturday, and then the race at 9 as well. So it's a late night one, rather than early morning one. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I can cope with that better.
Yeah.
And I'm quite glad, actually, now that McLaren are back in the fight. It makes it a lot harder to kind of call and see where...
Yeah, it was a kind of pleasant surprise to see Piastri properly mixing it with the top guys.
I mean, it kind of was a surprise, and you've got to remember, like you say, they had the double last year. So for them to be like nowhere from winning constructors and drivers would have been a bit
that's a big
of an eye-opener.
Complete regulation overhaul.
Yeah, but also
has happened before.
The team who's supplying their engine and gearbox package are winning.
Yeah.
Like, dominantly, so it would have raised eyebrows, I think, if they had been nowhere. And I think what's happened before was... I think the reasons why they haven't done well in the first 2 weekends have been external, if that makes sense. It's just...
Yeah, not pure pace reasons.
Yeah, and I think Mercedes, I think there's a bit of, not deception, I don't think they're quite as dominant as people think. I've heard they're going through components way, way, way faster than they should be.
And obviously there's going to be this compression ratio remeasuring.
Yeah.
Which they might find a way to make it work, to be fair. They might sort of get away with it because they've been given time to fix it.
Yeah, but, well, what it will mean is they're on the same top end down the straights power as everybody else now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the back end of the season, Mercedes might start finding themselves running out of components or taking grid drops or...
Yeah, they're not running away with it as much as they have won every race. It feels like they're having to work for it, at least, which is kind of fun.
Yeah. And I think at the moment it looks really stark, but that's 3 races and 1 sprint, so...
I think, looking stark, I don't mind if they win the majority of races, as long as the races are exciting. And as long as they're not, getting insane jumps off the start, and they're 10 seconds ahead by the end of lap 5.
Yeah, and I mean, this one, the podium was Mercedes, McLaren and Ferrari, so...
Oh yeah, Russell was all the way down in 4th. It was a bit of a... He had this weird issue at the end, didn't he? He slowed down and got done by Leclerc kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, like I say, it's a lot...
If what you say is true about the components, that's a bit of a worrying portent almost, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, we'll be back from Miami anyway.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah. Only about an hour so far, it's not too bad.
Okay then.
One more piece of news.
Oh, yeah?
The Giampiero Lambiase GP.
Yeah.
He's leaving Red Bull for McLaren.
Well, yeah. Well, he's going to start at 28 or something?
Yes, so I don't know if he's got a whole year of gardening leave. Because he is currently the head of racing at Red Bull, so he probably knows everything.
Yeah.
But he's also Max Verstappen's race engineer still.
Yeah.
And Verstappen has basically said, if GP leaves, then I'm leaving.
And he has always said as well, he wants to finish his career at Red Bull.
And, he's not enjoying the cars. They're not competitive. Yep. He's actually he's actually focusing almost more on other racing. I mean, he's doing the 24 hours of the Nürburgring.
Yeah, he's actually running his own racing team.
He could be going off to Le Mans.
I mean, there's two things I thought about. One is the GP move has been on the cards because he's had some time off. I think he's got family issues, which is, not our business to talk about.
Yeah.
But nothing's been said about it. So moving to a senior role at someone like McLaren where he can live in Britain, which presumably is what works for him.
Yeah.
Makes sense. But also Max says he wants to retire from Red Bull.
Mm.
But since he's been in Red Bull, he's lost Christian Horner, he's losing GP, he's lost Jonathan Wheatley, there's others have gone as well, aren't there?
Has Helmut Marko slowly been sort of let go as well, I think?
Yeah, I think he's been sidelined. I think it all started a long time ago with the death of Dieter.
Yes.
Who actually ran Red Bull and had quite a big hand in it.
He was kind of holding the whole team together in some ways, it seems.
Yeah, but I think he was also, because he was older and Austrian, I think he was quite a big friend of Marko.
Mm.
So I think in political terms, I think Helmut Marko's power and influence has been gradually, like you say, declining. I don't think Jos Verstappen has made very many friends in the paddock either.
No.
So I think, I'm sure there are other technical people who've left Red Bull as well.
I think it's been a mass exodus, really. And it kind of is shown, well, Adrian Newey as well.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Even just losing Newey, Wheatley, Horner, Marko.
And Lambiase.
And now Lambiase, it's like... It's quite astonishing what's happened to them.
Yeah, and
just
I mean...
as an organisation, not even looking at the results.
But, for Max Verstappen, who's like the star of the whole team, it probably doesn't feel like the same team anymore.
No? Because, again, all those people were there when he was first winning and winning his first championship.
Yeah.
Without GP especially.
Yeah. I mean, look how much Lewis has struggled losing his relationship with Bono.
Yeah. Although, actually, I know it was China, wasn't it, that he got the podium and Bono was there for the first Antonelli win as well. It was quite nice.
Yeah. Yeah, and Toto says, I think that was 3 of my drivers on the podium.
Yeah, he still sees Hamilton as one of his drivers. I've seen videos, like social media videos from Mercedes, and sometimes Hamilton's just like in the background talking to Mercedes guys.
That is weird, isn't it?
In his Ferrari red, but he still, he still knows them all, and they're still friends.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the same in any big sport that moves around the world.
I think actually it's probably more so with Formula One than any other sport, I'd say. Because it's like the paddock is so contained.
Yeah.
And there's only so many people who work those jobs.
And who kind of probably understand what it's like, and you're seeing them every weekend in a different city, and yeah.
And all the drivers, they compete on the weekends, but like, I'm pretty sure Sainz and Albon and Russell are all good friends with like Norris and Piastri and all them lot,
I'm sure Max has given Norris lifts home on his private jet and stuff.
Yeah, and Sainz and Leclerc I've seen driving each other around as well.
Yeah.
They're all just, people working jobs.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, it seems like every season we say, could Max just retire if he's not winning?
But I think this is the first season he's not been winning.
Yeah.
But we ultimately don't know what's going on in his head, because the regs could change, and he could suddenly start enjoying the way they drive again and start winning, and then he decides he wants to stay.
Yeah.
Or
he's got a new baby at home as well. That's got to be a...
He could move to Mercedes, because Toto's been very public about wanting him. And without GP there at Red Bull, why would he stay, in some ways?
But then, how do you pick between Verstappen, Antonelli and Russell?
Yeah, that is the problem.
I mean, Russell has been waiting for his chance to have a tilt at the world title. Trying to put Russell and Verstappen in the same team.
God, I don't even think it's a good idea for the
But there we go. Antonelli is the young, up and coming. I've already won 2 races out of 3. Putting him and Verstappen together, either Verstappen would mentally destroy him, and it'll take 5 years to rebuild his confidence, or
yeah. It's an impossible paradox.
I think Toto might just have to step back and go, I don't need Max Verstappen.
No, he's got 2 drivers that he's developed personally and worked with.
And the team embedded.
And who are winning.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing broken there. There's nothing to fix.
No. I guess Max could also go to McLaren to follow GP.
That's more likely, because I can see that one of Norris or Piastri is going to get fed up.
I think with the other driver?
Yeah.
Well, I can't see them getting rid of Piastri if he's already got the sort of legs on Norris.
But then Norris has been there from the beginning. Yeah.
It's literally impossible to say because we're not Max. No. And it's honestly, it's more likely that even Max doesn't know.
Yeah, I can just see the headlines now. Max, surprise move to Aston Martin.
Yeah, maybe an Aston Martin sports car in another series.
Yeah.
It's more likely than this Aston Martin.
Yeah.
Unless they pay him £1 billion a year.
Well, he doesn't need the money.
No.
He's like Kimi Räikkönen, who'd be like, I want to race nice cars.
Yeah, actually, it's exactly like Räikkönen, because he's just following the racing. He's not interested in the glory.
Wasn't
even.
It Räikkönen who just forfeited a vast amount when he was at Lotus because he got money per point contract and bankrupted them.
Yeah, and he just said, "Oh, don't worry about it."
Yeah,
I think he got like the bonus that they could afford, and they were like, "We'll pay you back later," and he was like, "Oh, just whatever."
Yeah. Anyway, right, let's wrap this up.
Thank
you for listening.
Mm-hmm. We'll be back in Miami, as discussed.
Yeah, back from Miami. If you like good murder mystery thrillers, look me up. I'm Graham H. Miller. Toby is Official Tibby YouTube channel, gaming, going really well.
Yeah. I just started a new series, playing some Minecraft.
Oh, well, yeah, I've got to sort out my Minecraft at some point.
Yeah.
And we will see you...
in a few weeks, probably.
Yeah, we'll talk to you in a few weeks.
Yep.
Goodbye.
Bye.